Now that Israel is expanding the war in Gaza, they've been making incursions into Gaza the past few days. It is obvious that they are ready to expand the war. According to the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he promised that this will be a very long war. This has made many people to be wondering, how are they going to fight in the tunnels, considering how tight it is down there? And how are they going to detect the tunnels in the first place? They say that necessity is the mother of all inventions. The Israelis found themselves in a situation where all their neighbors are actively trying to harm them, so they have to devise means to protect themselves. That's why they developed this tunnel detection system, because Hamas have built tunnels under Gaza that runs into a few hundreds of kilometers. They know that the only way they can survive the Israeli air power is by hiding underground. That's why they built these tunnels in the first place. So now that the Israelis are invading Gaza, they are going to fight themselves inside those tunnels. It is believed that the US uses this tunnel detection equipment to detect tunnels along their southern border with Mexico, where they use tunnels to smuggle all sorts of things, especially drugs. Also, a few years ago, India discussed buying this tunnel detection equipment with Israel. They intended to use it along their border with Pakistan to put things in check because of smuggling. So this technology exists. That's what the IDF will rely on in Gaza. They use it to detect seismic changes underground. When they detect these tunnels, they'll be able to work out where it goes and how to block off some entry points and exit points, and work out how they will be in control when their troops get into the tunnels. That's why their Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that this will be a very long war. Basically, the IDF has two main objectives. Number one is to deplete the assets of Hamas. They want to make it impossible for Hamas to wage war against Israel in the nearest future. If they are able to destroy all the tunnel infrastructure, that will make it impossible for Hamas to exist, because they can no longer hide. Most of the things they do underground will no longer be possible because the tunnels no longer exist. It will be very easy for the Israelis to watch what is going on in Gaza from above. Number two, the hostages. Despite the offer by Hamas to release all the hostages in exchange for all the Palestinian prisoners or those that are in detention in Israel, that will run into several thousands, if not up to 8,000 of them in Israeli prisons and detention centers. The Israelis are not buying this offer because they consider the last time they did it as a very bad precedent. They released 1,000 Palestinians in exchange for one Israeli soldier who was kidnapped by Hamas. And some of those guys they exchanged the last time actively participated in what happened on 7th October in Israel. So they do not believe it is the right thing to do. They believe that if they mount serious forceful pressure in Gaza, that something might give. Also, the Israelis seem to have improved the efficiency of this tunnel detection equipment. They seem to be hitting all the right places, although there are civilian casualties. This brings us to the end game of Hamas. What is their ultimate end game? It is near impossible for Hamas to win a conventional war against Israel. That's a fact that everyone knows. And Hamas is labeled a terrorist organization by most Western countries. Many other countries see them as freedom fighters. And remember how wars between Israel and Hamas normally ends. Whenever they reach a peaceful truce, they always bombard each other till the last moment. It's just like two people in a boxing ring fighting each other. They are looking at the time. They see that the time is about to go. So they try to throw their most powerful punches to score a point at the last moment. This is exactly what goes on between Israel and Hamas whenever they reach a truce. So after each truce, what happens? Hamas normally starts another war. So Hamas already recognizes that they can never win Israel in a conventional war, but they are always the one that will start the war. Why? And this time around, on October 7th, 2023, they attacked Israel unprovoked with as many as more than 1,400 casualties. Is Hamas expecting Israel not to retaliate? And who are going to be the casualties? Palestinians? Hamas members, everyone living in Gaza. So the point here is, whether Hamas are terrorists or freedom fighters, why don't they ever consider the consequences of their actions? Did they expect that Israel will fold their hands and do nothing after losing more than 1,400 citizens? If they are truly freedom fighters, why do they do things that bring harm to the people they are supposedly fighting for? Well, it doesn't make sense that someone will claim to be fighting for someone, but they only end up bringing harm to the people they are claiming to be fighting for. And Hamas has made it a religious war. They've been calling on Muslims around the world to speak up and support them, which many of them have been doing. No one cares about religious war, especially in the Western world. Israel has never made it about religion. They've always maintained it's about their security, that they want to survive, that they want to live in peace like every other country. Even in Africa, during the fight for independence in many African countries, they never made it about religion. They always maintained that it was about their survival, that they want these colonialists to leave their country, that they want to govern themselves. They basically made it about independence, not religion or race. And the world listened. All the colonialists eventually pulled out of Africa. They all achieved their independence. Hamas and other Palestinian groups are not making it about independence. In fact, Hamas has made it clear that they want to wipe out Israel. During the colonial times in Africa, especially during the independence struggle, there was nowhere in any country in the whole of Africa that they inflicted more than 1,000 casualties among the colonialists. There was nowhere it ever happened. If that happened, they would have lost that independence struggle completely, because they must avenge for their casualties, for the people they lost. So you can understand why this conflict will never stop, because it is not about independence for Hamas and other Palestinian groups. It is about something else, religion related, anything you can call it, but it is not about independence. And people always like to refer to how it started, who was there before, who came after. You have to be very powerful before you can displace someone from where he is. That's the reality. In many countries today, like Australia, the United States, and many others, the majority population living there today are not the original population that was living there a few hundreds of years ago. Empires come and go. The land and the world will always remain. It is time everyone faced reality. Everyone can live in peace, and we will all go one day, and the land and the world will remain. Thanks for watching.